celebrations for the successful act of Palestinianism in DC a couple days ago continue. Uh, two Israeli diplomats were murdered, and of course, the pro-Palestinian side, as we've been talking about in the last few days, is split between those who claim it's a false flag and those who fully support it. Those who fully support it are continuing doing their thing, and they're doing it in the streets as well as social media. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna see some stuff that they're doing after this attack. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Mark Pellegrino. Mark, you've seen what's been going on. Your initial thoughts about this attack and the reaction to it.
I don't think my initial thoughts can be published on air. I think they would be punctuated by beep, 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 because they'd all be expletives. I mean, this is an unbelievable tragedy. It's not just a tragedy, it's a tragedy for the poor innocent human beings who were murdered by this psychopath. But it's indicative of the rhetoric that's been ramping up over the past 2 years from the pro-Palestinian movement, who have been encouraging lone wolf murderers like this, and probably even cells and groups of people like this to commit atrocities. I mean, what does globalize the Intifada mean but start murdering Jews around the world? Likely there are Marxists in there who think globalized intifada means murdering anybody who happens to be in the bougie class, but of course that's going to include Jews. I can't help but think that the moral confusion is the result of academia seeding our young population with two fundamentally terrible concepts. Uh, Marxism, historical Marxism, and looking at all of history through the prism of oppressor oppressed and colonizer and colonized has given these folks a false binary view of who the good and bad folks are in this argument, and they're completely erroneous as a result. And Marxist's kissing cousin, postmodernism, which informs people that all notions of good themselves are just a result of power structures. And the idea is to overthrow the power structure so that you can control now the moral messages. So I just see people, I see the Marxist postmodernist movement as inducing a type of psychopathy that is becoming sort of a mass epidemic amongst the young population and populations around the world that have a history of anti-Semitism anyway. It's just bringing it out like a hot towel brings a zit out from under the skin. And it's terrifying, in my view, to see America, which next to Israel was supposed to be one of the safest places for Jews to be, becoming one of the most dangerous places for Jews to be. So I'm horrified by this latest development. I certainly hope the administration cracks down on this person in particular, but any of these ridiculous protests that incite violence, folks, inciting violence is not a free speech right. It's not protected speech, folks. And when you have violence like this, that's the direct result of incitement, when you can prove the connection between the two. And I think Free Palestine, as the guy is being pulled out of the building and arrested, is an example that he is inspired by the rhetoric that is everywhere across the East Coast and other states becoming prominent. Then if you're chanting those things, maybe it's time for you to spend some time in jail. And I'm saying this as the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, that is all about 100% support of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to see people, call what Israel's doing a genocide and then in the same breath talk about how they want all Jews to die or at least the state of Israel to be wiped off the map.
Can I
And
say something? Can I say something really fast just to interrupt? Because I hear people calling Israel an empire with aspirations to an empire. And if they know anything about the Muslim conquest, Arabs lived in a peninsula called Arabia, and they expanded out across the Levant, North Africa, Asia, and Europe. That's an empire. That's an empire. A sliver of land the size of New Jersey is not an empire. A sliver of land that has remained that size the entire time of its existence, when it was supposed to be larger and incorporate what became Jordan, is not an empire. They don't have empire aspirations. Hamas and the Islamic Jihad and the fanatics behind the Islamicist movement actually do. Those are the people you should be frightened of.
Yeah, and they state it clearly. They state it repeatedly. They state it in those pro-Hamas marches where you have gays for Palestine or something like that, and they get attacked in those marches because yeah, this is ultimately the more consistent and more you know true believers in their cause will end up winning, and that is the Islamists. So yeah, this is what we have to look forward to if this movement succeeds. And this is why, and I keep saying this, if people when people ask why are you still talking mostly or almost entirely about Israel, well, this is why. It's not just because of the war. And look, most of our shows are not, here's the latest happening in Gaza and the latest bombing or whatever. It is the fact that culturally, look, October 7th itself was a day when people took to the streets to celebrate. This happens in DC. People take to the streets to celebrate. People demand more. People see the kind of hero that this terrorist has now become and want to be heroes themselves. And there will be undoubtedly copycats because look, why not? Look at how he's received. Do you want to see some video of what went on in Chicago
I mean,
yesterday?
I'd rather not, but I think the people who are watching should see it. If they're not familiar with it, they need to see the savages that you're dealing with. So yeah, put these crazy psychopathic, sociopathic nuts on. Let's see what they're all about.
Liberation's possible! Liberation's possible! We don't want no Tuesday! We don't want no Tuesday! We want all of 48! We want all of 48! We want all of
All right, all
48!
right. Is there anything, Daniel, more that we need to hear? I don't remember actually what she said. If there's anything more there, but yeah, this is a very clear statement. This is the only thing we care about is this one Jewish state that exists, and its existence is our problem. The fact that there is a Jewish state, and I keep saying this, 1948. Yeah, they want to go back to before there was a state of Israel. But when they talk about the Nakba, the disaster, their real Nakba is not 1948. It's 1945 when World War II ended with some Jews still being alive. That is the disaster for those people. And again, that is a disaster that hopefully will keep being the case. But this movement is very, very strong. The movement, the exterminationist movement, which is Palestinianism.
Yes, it's clearly an exterminationist movement. I mean, the chants that she's making clearly imply there should not be a Jewish state, which means the Jews can't live there. So if you want to talk about apartheid, well, the apartheid state is literally the Palestinian Arabs who want to enforce apartheid on the Jews. 2 million Arabs live in Israel in peace with equal rights as citizens of that state to any Jew that lives there. The same cannot be said for any of the surrounding Islamic and Muslim Arab territories. By the way, themselves conquered in the Muslim conquest the results of imperialism and colonialism. So this whole movement for extermination just screams irony. It just screams irony. It's so obviously obtuse that it's hard for me to take it seriously. One of the first things this horrible woman said with this horrible screechy voice is what liberation is possible or something like that. Yes, liberation has been possible, and the Jews have been trying to give it to you, Palestinians, since 1948. Even before then, when the Peel Commission came out with the original partition plan, the Jews were happy with it. It was the Arabs who weren't. Now, ever since that time, folks, people who are pro-Palestinian listening to this, the Arab nationalists had absolutely no intention of creating an independent Palestinian state. There was no intention in anybody's mind to create that. The only people who had the intention were the Peel Commission and the Jews. And then when the partition plan of 48 happened, it was the UN and the Jews who were accepting a two-state solution, and the Arab Federation that didn't, because they still held out hope that they could have a greater Syrian empire. Palestinians had nothing to do with it. They were stabbed in the back by their own people. So the liberation process has been derailed by Arabs every single time, every single time. And yes, liberation is possible if the Palestinians will give up their fake narrative, return the hostages, exile Hamas members who I think should all be dead anyway. They shouldn't be alive. They shouldn't be allowed to live one more second or breathe one more breath. But if exile is what Netanyahu thinks can happen to the government, then exile the government completely, put in a new one, and start the process of building an actual state. Get over yourselves. Recognize Israel. They will always be there. You may not. You may not, Palestinian folks.
Well, first of all, you're assuming liberation means that they finally get a state, like, and she's clear about it. That's not what it means. When she continues the chant, what she means is liberation from the current situation where Jews have a state, if not
Oh,
Jews.
absolutely. No, I'm saying liberation, real liberation is possible if they accept these terms and conditions, and they can actually start the productive process of state building and living in peace with their neighbors. That is not what they mean.
Yeah,
That is not what
and
they mean.
And I really hope that nobody on the Israeli side ever allows that to happen. Look, if they didn't understand it before October 7th, they really need to understand it now. Israel won't exist long term if Gazans are allowed to stay in Gaza and the Arabs in the West Bank are allowed to stay there. Yeah, in the long run, there will be more of these terrorist attacks. They're going to be bigger. There's nobody talking about deporting people from the West Bank. So that's coming at some point, a big terrorist attack from there. And yeah,
And folks, this anti-Zionist bullshit is it's just a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. I mean, and if you really doubt that, all you have to do is watch those stupid Columbia University students linking arms and preventing Jews from going to classes or studying, or invading the library where people are trying to study for their finals, and invading the space of Jews. Do they ask them, are you a Zionist? You're Jewish, but are you a Zionist as well? Now, whether 85 or 90% of Jews happen to be Zionists is irrelevant. It's clear that their target are Jews. And that it has nothing to do with Zionism. Zionism is just a convenient excuse, it's a convenient rationalization for their anti-Semitism and their frickin' violence.
yeah, I saw this tweet. I sent it to Daniel, but I can just read it. Hang on, find it. I can read it. Yeah, so somebody tweeted, "I'll forever be triggered when I see the Star of David. May the Israelis never know peace." Okay, but the Star of David, is a Jewish symbol that has been a Jewish symbol long before the state of Israel existed. So what you're triggered by is again the fact that there are Jews in the world. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Equal to Reality, for the super chat. Equal to Reality says, "It's about time they showed their full evil." They've been showing their full evil the whole time. I mean,
From the
celebrating on October
get-go.
7th.
From the get-go. You know
Yeah.
what? When you're facing evil that's so in your face, it's hard for decent people to understand that what they're seeing is actually real. It's like There was a guy many, many years ago who took a rifle into Universal Studios, some tower in Universal Studios, and tried to kill a bunch of people. But he was walking on the streets with the rifle, and nobody stopped him. It's partly because you're seeing something in your eyes, it's like your physical senses are taking something in that your mind can't process because you don't think it's possible for somebody to be doing that. And you don't think that, well, okay, the person's carrying a rifle, but he's not going to do something super evil with it. And that's the way decent people think. It's hard for them to get into the minds of these sociopaths. And literally, these movements are commanded by pathotypes. If you don't think they are, the leaders of these movements are complete and utter sociopaths. And you may be following along because you're misled, whatever, or you may be a pathotype yourself. But this is a movement about psychopathy. I mean, just watch these people. Watch them for 10 seconds.
Or read them in the chat. One of them says Eichmann and Hitler were Jewish. What more do you want? So yeah, this
What?
is
Tell
I don't
me,
know.
tell me the relevance of that. So Finkelstein is Jewish too, and there's lots of critics who are morally
Well,
evil
Eichmann and
with
Hitler were
res
not Jewish. This is the point. This is, basically anything bad or anything that
let's
people
but
agree is bad, they'll associate with Jews and
Well, that's a whole other thing. But I'm just saying, even if they were, it's irrelevant. People like to point out Jews disagreeing with Zionism or anti-Israeli Jews as somehow being a moral compass or a refutation of the beneficence and goodness of the state of Israel. And folks, it's not. That's just tribalist thinking 101. Just because a Jew says it doesn't make it so. Okay? I'm not a Jew and I'm standing for the right side, the side that actually has a pluralistic society, a parliamentary democracy. They're in their founding charters. They bestow rights, equal rights on religious and ethnic minorities. There is no state in that region besides Israel that stands by those democratic principles. That makes Israel morally superior on every level to every society around it. All right. Because it respects individual rights to the degree that any other rights respecting country does today. And to that degree, it deserves a place in the top free nations of the world. And it's under assault by ignorance, religious fanaticism, hurt pride. I mean, if you think about it, Razi, fanatics within the Muslim community have mourned the Crusades. They mourned the loss of at Constantinople in Tours when Christian armies turned them back. They still think about these things and they still desire to overcome those losses. So to them, those are catastrophes of themselves, historical catastrophes that need to be righted. And you hear imams talking about this stuff today. The most violent period in their history, because they were in ascendance, they consider that to be the golden age of Islam.
thank you,
Please,
Bonnie, for the
please.
super chat. Vered says in the chat that she can't see the person who said that Eichmann and Hitler were Jewish because she blocked him. Yeah, yeah. This is a regular troll. It's not a first timer, and I see some of the other
Hey, can I
regular
tell him?
trolls piling on this
Can I
topic.
tell that guy? Can I ask that guy a question? Can I
Uh,
can I can I choke you out, buddy? Can I just choke you out? Can I
you
just
want to go to his basement and
Yeah, I'll go to his basement. I'll ask his mom for permission to rear naked choke him, or I'll guillotine you, or I don't know, Dars choke you. Whatever I'll do, I'm going to put you unconscious. Can I please do that, you anti-Semitic twit? I'm sorry. I had an outburst. I didn't mean that. I did
uh,
mean it, but I don't want it to
Dana White, if you
derail the
can
show.
bring the octagon into that person's basement, yeah, that's
Let's do it,
money
buddy. You
right
and
there.
me. You and me. I'll put the
Um,
gloves back. I'll put the gloves back on just to feel your face smash against my fist. I hate these people. They're so disgusting.
Thank you, Bronx Guy, Gun Hill Road, for the super chat. I think I need to preemptively apologize to the audience for what I'm about to say. Um, did you see this Guy Christensen? Your favorite guy is what he goes by on the really young.
Dude, I think I responded to this creep. Is this the guy who said if you have green eyes and you're a white guy, people get upset about you talking about Palestine or
I think he may have said that, but he basically became even more famous than he already was a couple of days ago when he said, I guess he condemned initially the terrorist attack in DC, and then he took it back and he said it's a good thing, and he said diplomats should be Israeli diplomats should be targets.
That is incitement. That guy has to go to jail. Now, I know he's like prepubescent and maybe he has to go to juvenile hall, but that is direct incitement to violence. And if any people, any diplomats from Israel are now targets, that guy's got to be part of the response, got to be partly held responsible. And all he's probably thinking about in his little prepubescent brain is that he's getting clicks and likes because he's saying these horrible things. But pal, your words have consequences, man. And if somebody dies as a result of what you're saying, you're going to be in trouble. And after you get arrested, I'm going to choke your young ass out too,
Look, I think he'll be
fucker.
pretty popular in prison, but yeah, I don't know. This guy is 19, so he's a legal adult. Like legally you don't have the excuse. He's not going to juvie. If he's going to jail, it's a grown up jail. And yeah, but this is consistent. He's super consistent with the movement. Of course, if you actually if you actually know what Palestinianism is and still support it, of course all Israelis, not just diplomats, are targets. And there's others. I'm sure you've seen this Palestine News Network, the people who just go and harass Jews or Israelis wherever they can find them, and then put it on YouTube or TikTok or wherever. And of course, they're super popular. It's um, yeah, this movement is about that. It's about not having people who are Israeli or Jewish living comfortably in peace anywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? To my Jewish brothers and sisters out there, start taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as fast as you can. If you live in a state not friendly to CCWs, concealed carry permits, go to one. Leave these urban centers where these moronic, evil, uh, moral idiots live, and get yourself to safety, or learn how to use a weapon effectively and defend yourself because you're going to be on the front lines, not a police officer. The police officer just comes there to draw the chalk around your body after some nutty Islamicist does something to you. You have to try to learn to defend yourself with vigor because these maniacs have no conscience. They have no sense of real right and wrong, and they are violent. They're violent and irrational. So please protect yourself. Learn to protect yourself.
Yeah, I remember saying on this channel, still back in 2023, but towards the end of 2023, that inevitably we will get to a point where there are Jewish militias out there defending Jews. And we see organizations already popping up, but they're all doing it within a legal framework, and it is gonna go to a non-legal framework at some point again, because these attacks, when somebody murders, he does get arrested, but when people call for it, or when people attack Jews but don't murder them, they get away with it. So, why would they stop? Thank you, Apollo Zeus, for the super chat. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Uh, Riel says, I tried to buy a weapon. It's impossible here. Where is here? Let us know. Let us know where here is.
Well, certainly where those protests were in Chicago, it's really, really hard to get a firearm in Chicago. You have to be extremely wealthy and jump through a number of hoops to do it. Um, and if there were an American capitalist party in power, that would not be the case. I just want you to know your Second Amendment right to defend yourself would be upheld unanimously, and no state could make a law that contradicts the Bill of Rights. So you would be safe. Wherever you are, please organize neighborhood watches and you have to do it within the law. But this isn't the first time the Jews have been subjected to this kind of thing and to negligence of the government to protect them against violence. And what did they do? They formed militia groups and ended up defending themselves. And that may be what has to happen now. And any groups in the Los Angeles area, as a non-Jew, would be perfectly happy to join and go on those patrols with anybody who needs to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I hope when the American Capitalist Party is in power, immigration laws also allow those of us who live in countries where we are legally not allowed to defend ourselves to, you know, cross the pond permanently. Um,
Yes.
Thank you, Mumu Joe, for the super chat. Mumu Joe says, how can one say he supports or cares about the poor Palestinians but judge only Israel? The fact they all ignore the Palestinian part of this mess proves they don't care. Look, not a single person in the pro-Palestine movement cares about Palestinians. The first thing they would say to the Palestinians, if Palestinian lives actually mattered to anybody in the pro-Palestine movement, they would not be a part of that movement. They would be a part of the movement telling the Palestinians, choose life over the murder of others. Choose your own life, choose the life of your children. Yeah. So definitely don't take the movement in the West at its word. Take the Palestinians at their word, and then assume that the Western supporters of that movement understand it and still support it. Thank you, Apollo Zeus, for the super chat. Apollo Zeus says, "Wake up, people! These people are dangerous." And thank you, Apollo Zeus, for another super chat. Apollo Zeus mentions Shomrim. I think this is yeah, there's a Shomrim collective in the UK. I think that's a kind of one of these organizations. I don't know if it was around before, but I've seen it around, and I don't know much about it. I just know that
Is
it
that
exists.
a protective organization?
Yeah, I think so. And
Yeah, well,
there's yeah.
given the mass protest I saw on social media just 10 seconds ago in the UK, I'm not surprised that that's happening. It seems like a necessity. So, by all means, keep building those private protection organizations for yourself because it looks like the UK police are just simply impotent. Like they have no idea how to handle these people.
Well, many of
Which
them, remember, like DEI like stuff exists in the UK. I think maybe more than it does in the US. So many of these cops are probably Muslim themselves, or at least agree with the ideas. Yeah, it's terrifying. There's also Beitar in the US, which I think is a bit more militant. And yeah, who knows what you
Yeah,
know.
folks, this is how militancy is born right here. When people see that they have no quarter, that the enemy will give them no quarter, and that there's no place for them to turn, you're going to start seeing extreme reactions from the other side because you're giving them no choice. You're basically making this an us or them fight. And in an us or them fight, I'm going with us. Sorry, that's just the way it's going to be. You break into my house, you've made it a you or me phenomenon. And now you leave on my terms, or which will probably be not at all. So be careful. The militancy you're preaching is going to shoot back right at you, folks. It's going to come right back at you. But I think this is what the sowers of chaos want. I think this is what the cultural Marxists want. I think they enjoy this. They enjoy playing on contradictions and they enjoy playing on the moral ambiguity in people's minds and the oppressor oppressed narrative because it's super easy for people to digest and using that to sow violence and chaos and to undermine the pillars of society. They like that. That's their thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Parting thoughts, Mark, and do you want to tell us a bit more about the American Capitalist Party and where people can find it?
My parting thoughts are I'm mad. I'm mad at how irrational the world is, how driven by emotion, how sh morally shallow the world seems to be, and how hatred, an ancient hatred, which we thought democracy and representative republic had put in the rearview mirror of history is really just has really just been festering underneath the surface of society all along, waiting for the opportunity to come out. It sickens me to see these kinds of protests because I see that the world's moral IQ has dropped to nearly zero. Because this is about as clear a moral situation as we've ever confronted in reality. In the history of the world, there is no more clear right or wrong in this phenomena than that Israel is right and the Palestinians are have a toxic society. They're governed by toxic maniacs, and that society needs complete reformation. And it seems that the only way to reform that society is the way we had to reform Nazi Germany, imperialistic Japan, which is through total and absolute defeat of their ideology. Now, people say you can't beat an idea. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. The idea that it was appropriate to enslave Africans was an idea that was prominent in the South, and it was beaten out of the South by Sherman and the Union Army, who he took the war right to the doorsteps of the plantation owners, and they said, "No more, thank you very much. You've repudiated our idea." That yes, that's exactly what you do. You make the idea so consequential in that the suffering will be so enormous if you hold to this idea and try to act on it that you decide not to. You make a conscious moral decision not to. So, yeah, I'm sickened by the state of the world, and I'm hoping against hope that Israel maintains its its strength, its moral strength, its morale against the onslaught of a deteriorated, morally decrepit world. So please, if any people from Israel are listening to me, keep your head up. You are on the side of right. As Ibsen said, the strongest man in the world is he who stands most alone. There's never been a more true statement than that today. You're standing alone in the face of a world that is morally depraved. You are right. Your cause is righteous because it's about sustaining Western values. It's about your own survival. You have a right to it. Fight for it vigorously until the enemy is done.
And where can people find more about the
Yeah,
American
sorry. So
Council?
yeah, you can come out. You can come. Mark R. Pellegrino on X. Uh, Capitalist Party is also on X. That's our site on X. It's now active, so you can go on there and talk with me about capitalism if you want, especially if you're a commie. I love beating up commies. They're especially stupid. You can also see our party, American capitalistparty.org. You can join, you can donate, become a member, and we can start being the change, folks. Objectivists out there have been waiting for this kind of party to come up for a long time. You don't have to settle for libertarianism anymore. Stupid ANCAPs, minarchists. You don't have to settle for that anymore. You have a party now that is grounded in solid objectivist principles, and we will fight for individual rights unapologetically. So please join us so that we could start marching against the hordes.
Link is in the chat and in the description. Thank you, Jonathan, for another super chat. I'm Rozzy Ginsburg on X. I encourage people to go look at some of the replies I get on X, especially the replies I get to replies. Very, very rarely. It happened a few days ago. Somebody, actually talked, somewhat to the point and asked a question that was semi-reasonable sounding. Mostly, it is not even you're a genocide apologist or whatever. It is about Jews. It's about my last name. That's the kind of stuff that's out there. Yeah. Uh, stop stop letting people get away with the anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism bullshit. Stop letting people get away with advocating for murder when while claiming the moral high ground because they do not have that moral high ground.
Yeah, guys, shine the light on this, man. This evil exists in darkness and it exists in your silence. So do not be silent. Look, I know many of you may be worried about the social consequences of coming out. on the right side of this, and so you remain quiet. This is what makes them powerful. This is where Rand said that evil exists because good men allow it to. You do not have to allow this to exist. It doesn't have to be in your midst. Speak out against it before it grows and metastasizes in a way that becomes super difficult to really extract. Right now, it's not super difficult to extract. So fight it now. Fight it now.
Random trolls calling me a hypocrite for not answering a question I didn't see. I don't remember where I signed a contract that says I work for you, but yeah,
Wait,
we don't.
I want to hear this question. Is that wrong?
I don't know what the question is. I see this person complaining, but I don't. You must have asked the question at some point. It's not a super chat, so I don't really care. But anyway, it's
Hey,
too much
hey,
time.
troll,
Therapy.
pay some money, and then we'll answer your question. Don't be a
Yeah, I'm
cheap
not gonna hold my
refugee.
breath. All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow with the
Okay,
Daily Objective and the reality show.
peace.